Madam Chair, we are live.
Great, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Electoral Area Services Committee meeting for April 21st. And first of all, would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people. And also like to welcome alternate director Brian Harrison. And also would like to acknowledge at this time all of our staff at CVRD through these challenging times that we've had with our water issues and how important they are to our electoral area services. So I just wanted to acknowledge and thank them so much for all their hard work through this time. And with that, an approval of the agenda, please. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Moving on now to the adoption of the minutes. Ms. Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item M1, the recommendation before you, that the minutes of the Special Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of April 7th, 2021 be adopted.
There a mover? Been moved. Seconder? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Moving on now to M2, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The recommendation before you is that the minutes of the Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of April 7th, 2021 be adopted.
Mover, second, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Moving, is there any business arising from the minutes, Ms. Harrison?
There is none, Madam Chair.
We move on now to public input period. Do we have any public input today?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have none.
Right. I did receive an email from somebody, but that wasn't timely. Okay, thank you. Moving on now to delegations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item D1 is a delegation, excuse me, from Brian Gregg, Site Path Consulting Limited, regarding the Rogers Communication Inc. and details of Rogers' proposed communication site at 1345 Fisher Road, Cobble Hill. And I'll just admit him from the lobby.
Great, thank you so much. Welcome, Brian. Welcome, Brian. Go ahead, please. I'd just like to inform you that you have 10 minutes as a delegation. Go ahead, please.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks for having me. Just going to open up my presentation here. I guess I will share my screen. Okay. Are you all able to see that?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so I'll just briefly run through my slide deck here. Much of this content you would have seen at my prior presentation in January. I've just added a bit of content regarding how our consultation process went. So as you all know, Rogers currently does not have dependable cell service in the Cobble Hill area. And basically as a result, we are consulting the community, or we did consult the community regarding a need to install a new communication site or a cell tower at 1345 Fisher Road. In January, I appeared before you to share a bit of the history or context, which basically is that we did secure a right-of-way agreement for this specific location, I believe as early as 2014 or 2015, previously consulted on it. We were not given concurrence, and so now that I think some time has passed and the demands for service have actually risen, we figured it was still a good location to consult on, and we got your approval back in January to do that. So as you know, this is an industrial zoned property. We thought that the general area appeared reasonable for a proposed communication site. Many of the neighbors appear to be warehousing and light industrial users. And further to that, we're adjacent to a mature tree buffer And so we think that the tower would be sort of largely screened from view, depending on which angle you're looking at it from. What we've tried to do, though, is basically pick a design, a monopole design that is the most slim structure type available to us. And we've proposed it in such a manner or of such a height that it could accommodate not only Rogers, but potentially another carrier in the future. So here's the location. On the left, an aerial photo, and on the right, a zoning map. Basically, we're directly south of the Rona, where Telus actually currently has a communication site. This is just a photo rendering. You can see before and after. Again, it's a slim monopole type structure, painted green. Here's another one from looking from the industrial area across the street from Fisher Road. And here's a view basically from the core of Cobble Hill. And the intent of this image is just to show that we think the tower would be effectively invisible from that area. So this is our site plan. We wanted to note that initially we had proposed the tower to be right on the property line, the north property line, but per feedback from your staff, we've decided to agree to set the facility back in compliance with a 9-meter setback, so we'd be directly beside the subject building on the property. And that way we're respectful of any neighbors and making sure that we're set back as basically every other structure type is. Here's our tower profile at a high level. It's 50-meter tall monopole structure. Again, the slimmest structure type available to us. Through discussions with your planning staff, we've agreed to paint the pole forest green to blend in with the trees. And we've also modified our fence so that it's a more attractive hardy board fence instead of an industrial looking chain link fence with barbed wire. So I think we've made some effort to improve our aesthetic approach in this changing area. Coverage maps, on the right is the after, and the blue colors are basically good coverage. So you can see it'll make quite a broad difference in the community, not only within the places where people live, but along the highway as well. So basically, as approved by the board, we consulted the community in accordance with the Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada default process. And that process entailed the 3 steps noted here. There's a newspaper notice in the Cowichan Valley Citizen. We notified area residents. We actually hand-delivered packages rather than just mail them as recommended by your staff to people in the area. And then we're appearing before you here today to request land use at concurrence. And our comment period ended in the middle of March. During our consultation, we actually didn't receive a whole lot of public interest. There were only 4 people that commented in total. And there were sort of the typical questions that we would always receive for any proposal like this. As you know, people have questions about health and safety, to which we always note that we comply with the Health Canada Safety Code. Questions and concerns were raised around proximity to residential areas as well as a neighboring school, which I believe we're quite set back from, but there is, of course, the school in the area. And then a question was received around, why do we need another tower in Cobble Hill? And as I may have noted previously in my former presentation, it's really because the existing Telus Tower isn't tall enough. There's no space on it above the trees to accommodate Rogers or any other carrier. So that's why we're here. And then one community member didn't state any concerns and simply wanted to support the project. So I had actually handed over all the public comments to your staff, just in transparent form. I would sort of kindly suggest that, compared to most of the consultations I do, receiving 4 comments only in my world is typically an indication of there not being a high degree of concern for the proposal. So hopefully this reflects that we've selected a reasonably cited proposal. So in light of this, again, we're here to request a motion or letter of land use concurrence. I realize that that has to go to the board meeting. And here on this slide, I've provided some of our sort of typical or proposed land use concurrence wording that would satisfy our federal regulator. So that's the end of my presentation, and really appreciate your time, and first and foremost, just wanted to be here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You could lower your screen, and then we'll see if there are any questions for you.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Gregg? Seeing none, Director Nicholson, go ahead, please.
So how far will the cell tower be from the school?
Yeah, I don't have the exact measurement handy, but I actually could, in short order, get that for you. If you'd like to know the number of meters, but I'll have to calculate that. You may know better than I do. Let me just check that out, though.
Is there
Thank you.
another question while he's looking?
Lori,
Alternate Director Harrison, go ahead, please.
I'm just wondering how much further or closer it is to the school than the Telus one in behind Rona.
Sure. So maybe what I can do, if this is helpful for everyone, I can open up basically Google Earth, and on there's a measurement tool, and I'll just plug in the coordinates, if you'd like, of our proposed location, and we know where the Telus Tower is, and we can just toggle around and take a look if that's a suitable approach.
Okay.
It'll just take me a moment, and then of course I'd have to share my screen again.
Yeah. I think those are the only two questions we have. So that would be
You have another one.
Madam Chair, I think
Oh.
I make it about 450 meters, something like that. But I'm sure that the delegation will confirm.
Okay, and did you have a follow-up, Alternate Director Harrison?
Yes, I'm just curious to know exactly what has changed since the last application that would make it so the community would accept it, because it seemed to me there was quite a bit of opposition last time. And I'm wondering what has changed with respect to design, location, or whatever that's making this acceptable now.
Sure. Okay, well, I'm going to share my screen here. Can you all see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. You would all know your community better than I do, but this yellow marker shows the proposed tower location, 1345 Fisher, and I believe this is the school in question. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I've put the ruler tool on there, and this is obviously approximate, but it shows 347 meters or 1,140 feet to the building itself. I guess the playing field would be a little bit closer. If you want to, we can measure that too. But
That's great.
yeah, I mean, it's reasonably set back, we would suggest, but I suppose that's a subjective matter. So yeah, 250 plus meters to the field. Yeah, and then you want to know the distance from the Telus Tower? That was another question.
Oh, okay. Yes, please. Yes, sorry.
So Telus to the building is about 680 meters.
Thank you.
Plus or minus. So what's changed? Well, I think our proposal is still similar. We changed the specific design criteria that we mentioned, so painting it green, offering to install a more attractive fence so that it's a bit more compatible with kind of the design elements that are desired in the area. But I think overall, I mean, frankly, across the board, I'm seeing a lot more support, even in areas that were maybe more contentious or difficult in the past. I mean, certainly that's not always the case, but you know, perhaps 5 or 10 years ago, people thought that cell phone service and data service and the internet, you know, were perhaps optional services that maybe not everyone felt were critical or absolutely necessary. Whereas you fast forward to today, you know, especially with COVID, people are working from home. You know, in 2021, to not have a dependable signal at your home or your place of work is a real disadvantage for a lot of reasons. You know, unless we pick offensive locations, we're well supported compared to what we may have been in the past. So I don't think a lot has changed. Maybe people have changed and have realized that being connected has a lot of benefits.
Thank you.
But I can only speculate.
Could you put your screen down for me, please?
Sure. Absolutely.
And then I'm going to turn to anyone else? Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Gregg. Appreciate it. Very good presentation and informative. I'll turn now to Ms. Harrison. Is there any correspondence, information directly to reports?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if you would like the delegation to stay in the meeting as R1 is related to.
Sure.
Okay. So item R1 is a report from the Development Services Division regarding Fisher Road Telecommunications Tower application 13 for 1345 Fisher Road, PID 017088151. And there is a recommendation with three parts. Would you like me to read that, or would you like to go to staff?
Maybe go to staff first, and then we'll have the resolution read out. Go ahead. And is this going to be Mr. Limshu? I can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Apologies.
there you go. That's okay. Okay, there we go.
So given Mr. Gregg's presentation, I'm not sure it's worth us going through another presentation. Certainly staff is available to answer questions. We do have a report in front of the committee.
Sure. Sure. Ms. Harrison, could you go ahead with the resolution? Read the resolution, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that a letter of concurrence be provided to Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada in response to a proposed telecommunications facility at 1345 Fisher Road, PID 017088151 with the following conditions. Number 1, that the telecommunications compound be placed at least 9 meters from the north parcel line, adjacent to the northwest side of the existing building. Number 2, that the monopole be painted dark green. And number 3, that the telecommunications compound be enclosed with a solid fence, which is constructed of semi-tenuous fiberboard and painted dark green.
Right, that's been moved. Is there a seconder? Been moved and seconded. Are there any questions for staff? Go ahead, Director Martman.
Hi, thank you, Chair, and through to staff. Was any consideration around aviation concerns looked at?
Would that be Mr. Gregg?
Yeah, I can comment on that. So we have applied to Nav and Transport Canada, as we always do, and haven't actually got a formal response yet. They can tend to take quite a while. I think sometimes they might be, because they're backlogged, waiting for me to comment that I have my land use approvals, though it would be nice to hear from them in advance. Typically, all that they would dictate is marking and lighting requirements, but I seem to really doubt that there would be any here, because we're not particularly close to an airport runway, and I don't think we would propose any aeronautical obstruction. And I've actually had applications in similar areas in the not too distant past where they said we did not need any marking or lighting. So I'm hopeful that that will be the case. I understand rather that you know, people don't desire lighting and marking and nor do we. It's up to the regulators, however.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions? I see that we have Ms. Wright is on the screen. If you have any questions. Seeing none, I look for the committee's pleasure. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? One is opposed. Alternate Director Harrison, motion is carried. Moving on now. Thank you very much, Mr. Gregg. Moving on now to R2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item R2 is the report from Development Services Division regarding application number COV 221 I02 for 9863 Yubo Road, PID 018058931. And I'm not sure, there's a phone number in the lobby, but I'm not sure if it's the applicant. Can I just check?
This is, I believe it's staff. It's the staff.
Oh,
Yeah.
R2?
Yep. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My
Welcome.
applicant,
Welcome, Ms.
Kathleen,
Woods.
thank you. My applicant is unable to make this meeting. He's caring for his wife right now.
Okay. So are you going to, will you be presenting, Ms. Woods?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Awesome.
Bear with me. I am just sharing our screen.
All right.
Just excuse me, just make the screen a little bit bigger there.
Are we good, Madam Chair, or do you want the screen bigger?
Well, you generally have it bigger, like it's presentable.
Wait for.
You just have you'd have two slides on your screen. We generally have one. That's what we're seeing.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not able to remove that.
Okay, it's not a problem because it's still visible. It's still fine.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. So this half-hectare subject property is designated suburban lakefront residential. It is zoned LR1 and within the Yubo containment boundary. Currently, there are 2 existing dwellings on the property, 1 single-family dwelling and 1 detached suite. The applicant currently has an active subdivision file and is working with the Ministry of Transportation and the CVRD. Thanks, Frank. The proposed subdivision would divide the property in half, with 1 dwelling remaining on each proposed lot. In order to proceed with the subdivision, the applicant has to discharge an existing covenant on the property. The covenant was registered as a condition of constructing the detached suite. However, the subject property is connected to community water and can be subdivided to a minimum parcel size of 2,500 meters squared. Only 1 dwelling per parcel will be permitted on lots of this size, which means there will not be potential to build a suite on either of these lots once they are subdivided. As the proposed subdivision meets minimum subdivision requirements laid out by the CVRD, we are recommending that this covenant be discharged so the applicant can proceed with their active subdivision file. And the last slide is just that it be recommended to the board that covenant CA, oh, I've lost the number now.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. If there's any questions for staff, I'm not seeing any. Director for the area, go ahead, Director Kuhn.
Yes, I move to staff recommendation.
It's been moved. There's seconder, and Ms. Harrison, could you read it, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that covenant FA 48107 for 9863 Yubo Road, PID 018058931 be discharged.
That's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to R3, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item R3 is a report from Development Services Division regarding application number DVP 21F01 for PID 027-241-807/9887 for Stinquoia Road. There is an applicant in the lobby. There's also a phone number. So if I could just take a moment to have this person identified. I'll admit the one that I know is an applicant, but I'm not sure what the phone number is related to the participant in the lobby.
And could I also mention that we did have some late information sent to us and additional information. We actually had additional information sent to us twice today, so I hope that all the directors had an opportunity to look at it. It was early this morning and another one this afternoon, just to let you know. Go ahead, Ms. Woods. And are the applicants, is everybody in the meeting that should be, Ms. Harrison?
I just admitted Jeff Hodgson, but I'm just wanting to confirm there's a call in and I don't have a record of this phone number. So I don't know if it's part of this delegation or something different. Maybe Mr. Hodgson could let us know.
Mr. Hodgson? I see somebody without a name, so there's no name connected to it. So could you identify yourself if you have just arrived into the meeting, please? Is your microphone not on? Could you identify yourself? Hello, can you hear us? Can you let us know if you can hear us?
Oh, he's gone. He's lost his connection,
Oh,
I
dear.
believe.
So we should. Oh, he's back. Could you identify yourself, please, if you can hear us? Let us know if you can hear us. And we cannot hear you if you're trying to speak. Hello? Oh, gone.
Mr. Hodgson, can you please unmute yourself?
Should we go to R3 so he has an opportunity? Is that okay with the committee that we move to R3 and maybe get the kinks out of R2? Oh, just a second. Go ahead, Ms. Harrison.
That is R3.
Oh, sorry.
So we would go to R4.
Please.
Item R4 is a report from Development Services Division regarding application number 04F17SA, Cowichan Valley Highway, PID 025-771-621. And I will admit the applicant from the lobby.
And who is the staff that will be presenting this, Mr. Limshu?
Madam Chair, that will be Planner Sheila Herrera.
Okay, thank you. Oh, welcome, Sheila. Hi. I see you. I don't see the applicant. Is the applicant Cam? I see a Cam.
Yeah, I'm right. Hi, Laurie.
Hi, welcome, Cam.
How are you?
Okay, good, thank you. So go ahead, Ms. Herrera.
I'm just going to share my screen.
Okay.
There we go.
Great. Okay. There we are. Thank you, Madam Chair. And thanks, Frank. So the report in front of you is to consider a lot frontage exemption as well as cash in lieu for park dedication relating to a subdivision application on the Cowichan Valley Highway. And the map is on the screen there. This property is just across from the Paldy Road intersection in Area F. So this is an 11 lot subdivision and the land is zoned industrial. And one of the lots right now is not meeting the 10% minimum lot frontage requirement, which is lot 7. And that is the only lot that is requesting an exemption. And staff is supportive of both the exemption as well as cash in lieu for this subdivision. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Put the screen down. Awesome. Thank you so much. Are there any questions for staff or the applicant? Seeing none, I turn now to Ms. Harrison to read the recommendation. Oh, sorry, I do have a hand up. Go ahead, Director Nicholson.
Thank you. I am curious as to why there isn't an RAR report at this stage, because it looks like we've jammed a lot of lots in there relative to the riparian wetland areas.
But the purpose of this is the parcel coverage and park dedication requirements. That's what the purpose, that is what we're here to approve or not approve now, not, that's what we're being asked right now.
I understand that, and I think the 10% issue is greatly affected by the number of lots that you have jammed in here.
What's your question?
My question was, why is there not an RAR assessment associated with this subdivision layout?
I think it would help if staff's able to just explain the process in dealing with this action. So I'm just going to pass it over to Sheila to explain that.
Go ahead, Ms. Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is an RAPR associated with this application, and it is actually, there's a development permit as well. It's just delegated actually, so it's not in front of the ESC.
Is there a follow-up, Director? Go ahead.
Well, I think that information would be useful for us.
That information was delegated, so I guess you could ask staff privately if you felt. I'm not sure. Is there anybody else that has another question? Seeing none, I'll turn to the director of the area. Director of the area, go ahead. Director Morrison.
I move the recommendation, and if there's a seconder, I would speak to it briefly.
It's been moved and it's been seconded by Director Kuhn, and go ahead, Director Morrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In regards to the recommendations for item 1 and item 2, I'm satisfied with the work that our staff has done and the preparation of this report. The information, there was mention in the staff report that the riparian considerations were contemplated in the in other aspects of this, and given that the question before us is the exemption of one of the 11 lots for the 10% waiver, and the fact that this is not this is an industrial development, industrial park, as opposed to a residential, the cash in lieu is perfectly acceptable to the residents of my electoral area. So moved. I'd ask for the committee to support the recommendation before us.
Ms. Harrison, could you read the recommendation, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that proposed lot 7 in subdivision application number 04F17SA, Cowichan Valley Highway, PID 025-771-621, be exempted from the minimum parcel frontage requirement in accordance with Section 512 of the Local Government Act. And number 2, that in order to satisfy Section 510 of the Local Government Act, 5% cash in lieu of park dedication be accepted for subdivision application number 04F17SA, Cowichan Valley Highway, PID 025-771-621.
Thank you so much. That's been moved and seconded, but we have Director Nicholson that wishes to speak. Go ahead, Director Nicholson.
I would like the resolution severed into 2 parts if I could.
It's already been moved as do you want to, I think, can that be Ms. Harrison? Is that part 1 and part 2? It was moved as one resolution, but there are 2 parts.
That is correct.
So it was already moved, Director Nicholson, in 2 parts.
So maybe through you to Ms. Harrison, is there a way that we could sever it or deal with it in 2 parts?
Ms. Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Director Nicholson. If you have a proposed amendment, you could put forward that now.
Okay, I would propose to amend the resolution to deal with part 1 first.
There's been a motion to amend to part 1. I'm not seeing a seconder. Going back to there's now a seconder. Director Acton has seconded the motion to sever and redo part one first.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
can't we just vote on them separately? I would think that we can.
It's an amendment. We were just told by Ms. Harrison that if Director Nicholson would like to put forward an amendment, she could go ahead, and you've just seconded that. So we are now discussing the amendment, which is severing it to R1, voting on R1 first. Go ahead, Director Nicholson.
Well, I'll speak to my amendment. I am in favor of the parkland dedication recommendation, but I have problems with the lot frontage issue because of the wetlands, and I think that the lot layout doesn't make any sense to me, and so I can't support the 10%.
Okay, so it looks like we're voting on part 1. So on the amendment of severing to part 1. So we're voting on the amendment only. So all in favor? Opposed if two in favor, opposed if any? Who are opposed? So the motion has failed. Back to the original motion with 2 parts. I'm going to call the question. Director Nicholson, go ahead, please.
Then I would like to let the committee know that I am not in favor of this recommendation. When we had the application before us for the subdivision on Barnjum Road, which had exactly the same issue associated with it, when you don't use the tools that you have available to make sure that you protect the environment, then the community loses.
Thank you. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. We're moving back to R3, I believe. Ms. Harrison, do we have the applicant available?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm just going to go into the lobby.
Okay.
And they are a call-in and a computer, so.
Yes, hello, I've got you on the phone.
Okay, thank you. We hear you. That's great. If you just, we're going to have the staff do the presentation, and you can just listen to that. And if there are any questions for you, or if you would like to add anything when the staff is finished presenting. So go ahead, Ms. Woods.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Frank, could you share the presentation, please?
Okay, bear with me for 1 second.
All good.
Yeah, we have to have a little patience with our new or our different kind of.
All right, so this is application R3 for a variance permit in electoral area F. The subject property is located on a private strata road, Stinkwell Road. The property contains currently an existing single-family dwelling and a retaining wall in the rear yard. There are also park dedications located in this subdivision at the ends, either end of Stinkwell Road and directly to the west of the subject property. We have received 7 letters of support from property owners and 5 letters of objection. The applicant is proposing a two-story garage and recreation room structure addition to the front of the existing dwelling. The first story will be below the road grade and will be a recreation room for hobbies, and the second story will be a garage, which will be level with the road elevation. With the location of the existing house, the proposed structure will encroach in the front parcel line setback. Also an existing a staircase extending more than 1 meter into the front setback will also be constructed and therefore must be considered with the application as it is not covered off by the setback exceptions. The applicant is applying to vary the front parcel line from 7.5 meters to 2.6 meters, and the building does comply with all other building zoning regulations. So staff is recommending that DVP 21F01 be issued.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And does the applicant on the telephone wish to add anything? I do not see the telephone any longer, but is the applicant still there on the phone? Oh, yes, Hodgson's. Yes, go ahead. If you wish to add anything.
The only thing I can think of is that the last house we lived in, we were in for 30 years. We have retired here. This is our principal residence. This is not a recreational property for us. My wife is an avid gardener and I'm an avid woodworker. And this would give us the availability to have both of those rooms in the lower part of the development. And other than that, it is our principal residence. This is where we live now. So I don't know what else to add.
Okay, thank you so much. There might be some questions from the committee to you, so stay on the line and just listen because they'll be asking questions to staff first. And they might have some for you too as well. So go ahead. Is there anyone that wishes to have a question for staff? Go ahead, Director Morrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through to Ms. Woods. And I've got a question that may be a little outside her realm, but as noted in the report, there is a key CVRD asset that is neighboring this property. It's the small park that provides waterfront access for upland property owners. And I'm not one to generally go and do site visits on properties, but it was about a 5-minute walk from my home, so I wandered down there with my camera today and took a look. And so my question through to staff is, has there been a referral to parks? I didn't notice it in the report, but there's currently some shadow effect from the existing building into the park area. It's not a big park area, and I found today that it's been heavily modified, and I'm sure not by our staff. But have you had remarks from staff on potential impacts of granting this variance?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Director Morrison. No, I have not done a referral specifically to parks. I have had conversations with parks and there weren't any concerns raised in those conversations, but there was not a formal referral done to them, no.
Thank you.
Follow up, Director Morrison? You're
Not
good?
at this time.
Okay, I don't see Director Nicholson. Go ahead, please. And then alternate Director Harrison. Go ahead, Director Nicholson.
I have a question. Maybe it is for the applicant. My understanding is that the Strata Council has rules around buildings and so forth. Has the applicant gone through the process to receive Strata support for this?
Sorry,
sorry,
is
Madam
that
Chair.
for me? Am I supposed to be answering that?
Yes, if you can. Sorry, I was muted. My apologies. Go ahead, please.
Yes. So we have only been here for 5 months, and our understanding when we initially purchased the property was that there were 2 people that were available for approving additions or construction in this area. And I spoke with one of those persons, and they indicated, I told them what I was planning on doing, and they indicated that they did not have a problem with it. In recent, in about last week to a week and a half, it seems to have come to our attention that there may be somebody else that does require an approval. We have not visited that yet. We will obviously have to work within whatever guidelines the strata and the approving people want. But we're certainly we were certainly under the impression that we had spoken to the person we needed to.
Follow-up, Director Nicholson. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I guess this is a follow-up question for staff then. Through you to staff, is this application before us then not premature if we haven't perhaps got the final plans done?
Ms. Woods?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Director Nicholson. The citing of the plan will not change. This variance will only grant them the exact site plan that is attached to the variance. If there are considerations in terms of siding or in terms of a building scheme, that's outside of our jurisdiction. So we can, essentially go forward with the site plan that we have, and we'll be able to, Frank,
Great.
sorry. Mr. Limshire,
Mr. Limshire, you would like to add on? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, through the Director Nicholson and the committee. So generally speaking, when we review the application, we review it for compliance with our zoning bylaws, and that's really what we have jurisdiction over. Yes, there are certainly in strata developments, there are rules and regulations that the strata themselves have put in place to manage the overall project or development. But that's certainly a private agreement between the members of the strata, and so we don't necessarily enforce. Well, actually, we don't enforce the strata rules and regulations. Having said that, we always advise the applicants to certainly talk to their neighbors and the appropriate folks to try to avoid any sort of misinformation and misunderstanding related to the application.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. And I turn to Director Morrison and then Director Smith. And Director Nicholson, did you have a follow-up?
I don't have a follow-up question, but I have a comment when it's time.
Okay, I'm turning to Director Morrison and then Director Smith. Go ahead, Director Morrison.
I'd yield to Director Smith if I could follow her.
Okay, go ahead, Director Smith. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I have a question for staff. It seems that you haven't received a letter from the strata supporting this under the strata regulations. Is that correct?
Ms. Woods?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to, no, we have not received a letter from the strata. But again, it's something that's kind of outside of our enforcement abilities.
Okay. Oh, follow up, Director Smith. And I'm not sure, Mr. Limshu, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say, just to be clear, the correspondence that we have received are from the individual property owners within that project. And there are letters both in support and in opposition to the proposed variance.
Thank you. Director Smith?
Thank you for the follow-up. I feel that we seem to be putting a bit of the cart before the horse here. There's many people that live in this strata that have emailed and made sure that we heard their voices. It's important that when you live in a strata or you purchase in a strata that you actually make sure that you're familiar with who you must contact and the regulations regarding their form and character. So I think it's really important that we don't have negative impact on the other owners in that strata. The impact could be their daily well-being. And if you look at a park right next door, I have concerns about putting a structure that large right against the park. And as we go through climate change, where does the sun come into play in the park? Is it an area where people are looking for an opportunity to go to the beach, and this structure just doesn't fit well with beside a park? So I wouldn't support the recommendation at this time. I think this should go back to staff for the owners to have a conversation with their strata and actually nail down if it's something the strata is agreeable to. Because when you look at the photos, you see all the other homes are set back. And then all of a sudden you're going to have one creep forward. The next one will creep forward. The next one will creep forward. And is that what they want their strata to look like? So I think we need to let the strata have a say in it and a good conversation. And I'm sure as new members of that community, this couple would definitely want to have that conversation. So I don't support the recommendation at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Morrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I can't tell you how much I would like to diverge from the task at hand in regards to the straightforward ask about a variance.
Thank you.
I have lots of opinions about other stuff and have a familiarity with stratas and know that it's quite frankly none of our business. But that park neighboring is our business, and I have grave concerns about it. And I want to hear some concrete direction as to impacts that the proposed variance may have on the little chunk of habitat that we're responsible for right in the middle of the of this development. So with that, if I could get support from the committee, I would, and I don't want to cause a great delay and have the applicants miss a building season or anything like that. So I would like to refer this back to staff to obtain an opinion on the impacts of this variance on the overall health of the neighboring park. And if I had a seconder, I'd ask you to support it.
It's been moved and seconded. So there is a motion on the floor for referral. Would anybody like to speak to the referral? Checking to Director Nicholson, but I believe that did I miss you, Alternate Director Harrison?
Yes, you did.
Sorry, my apologies. Were you after Director Morrison?
Well, I was way back up to
Okay, my apologies. You should have, yeah, okay, go ahead, please, and then I'll
just
go
being
to
polite. No, I would agree with Director Morrison, but I also think it should be referred back to the strata, because the strata will have the final decision here. And I would be afraid that by approving this to go forward, you're putting pressure on the strata to agree with it. And I think that because of the way the Strata Act is structured, that it really should have their blessing before it is dealt with by the board. So I would suggest in the case of Director Morrison's motion that we add that it be referred back to the strata for their input as well. Because I'm concerned that here there may be sight lines that are involved, and we have 7 approve, 5 against, or the 5 against approve, against it because they've lost their sight lines through the lake or to wherever. So I'd feel more comfortable if it went back to the.
Friendly amendment on that, Director Morrison? Nope, not at all. Okay.
No, and
Because it's
I,
not our jurisdiction.
yeah, if I could, that would really muddy the issue. I think all of the decision makers within that strata are very aware of what's going on, and I would, in the time that it would be back with staff, I think that the folks in that neighborhood could sort things out. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Nicholson, go ahead, please, on the referral.
Well, I would second alternate Director Harrison's motion to amend it because that was exactly my point. The comments that we received had a lot to do with sightlines, if I recall correctly. And I really believe strongly that while we may not have to pay attention to strata rules, it doesn't help the community to not be supportive of these developments, and it sort of divides the community, and I don't think it can hurt to have this dealt with by the strata first. It's just really a timing issue, and I think that that's appropriate.
I think the strata, I believe the director of the area said the strata is completely aware of this. Okay, so anybody else? Not seeing any, so can you repeat your referral motion, please? Or maybe Ms. Harrison can, so that we're clear.
Well, my referral is back to staff to obtain an opinion from park staff as to the impacts this variance would have on the neighboring park property.
Okay, so that's been moved and seconded, and I'm going to call the Director Smith.
Can I make a friendly amendment that it go to the Area F Parks Commission? Because I think that they live there, they actually are probably more familiar.
Director Morrison.
What the impact might be.
Director Morrison.
This will
amendment?
cause no, it'll cause far too much of a delay in this. I believe there's significant awareness in the community. I don't want to cause undue hardship on this. My Parks Commission will not see any more than I did. I'm comfortable sending it back to staff and getting their professional opinion.
Okay, Director Nicholson on the referral.
Well, I would like to propose an amendment to the referral so that it is also going to the Strata Council.
Ms. Harrison?
If I have a seconder.
Okay. There's an amendment to the referral. Is that accurate? Is everything okay here, Ms. Harrison?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
So they'll have to vote on the referral to strata first before they go back to the referral to staff.
Okay, so on the floor currently is a referral to the strata. And Director Morrison, go ahead, please.
I'd encourage my colleagues to defeat the amendment if we're not wanting to divide communities and delay the process here. I think this is not the direction to go. I believe that by the time this comes back to committee, we will have an answer from the strata, and this will add significant delay in the process. And we've got some business to get done. I think hearing back from staff is plenty. Thank you.
Okay, an amendment on the referral to send it to the strata. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is defeated. Moving on now to the original referral motion was to take it back to the park staff. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Thank you so much. Moving on now to R5, I believe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item R5 is the report from Development Services Division regarding application number ALR 20E04 for 4976 Mclay Road, PID 023-980-958. And I believe the applicant is in the lobby.
Okay, and welcome, Ms. Wright. You'll be speaking to it. And I don't see the applicant yet, so I'll just wait. There's the applicant. Welcome, Mr. Ellison. Can you hear us? Hello.
Yep.
Okay, so
Hello.
you can hear us. We're going to have staff will be presenting your application, and then there might be questions for you, or you. So if you could just stay on. I don't see you. Are you on the phone or? Okay. You're here.
Starting now.
Okay. Hey, that's what counts. All right.
Can you see me now?
I can. Welcome.
Awesome.
Okay, so we will let staff go ahead and turn the screen. Thank you, Ms. Wright, and Mr. Limshu will do his magic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we can. It's still a funny little screen. You've got another little square in there, but we can see it.
Okay. All right. So with that, I'll pass it over to Lauren Wright, the planner on this file, to speak to the application.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So this is an application number ALR 20E04 to construct a third residence on the subject property. And if you could switch slides, please. So the property is approximately 23 hectares and it's zoned A1. It is within the ALR and has farm status under BC assessment. It is a grass-fed beef and chicken farm. So the property is actually owned by the applicant's grandfather who lives in one of the residences on the property. There's also another single residential dwelling on the property that is owned by the applicant's brother, I believe. So this is an application to permit a third residence for the applicant to reside on the property. So our zoning bylaw permits a second single family residence as required for agricultural purposes, subject to ALC approval, which was granted in 2012. The zoning bylaw also permits one additional single family dwelling as required for agricultural purposes, subject to ALC approval as well. So this is what the applicant is requesting. The final request is for the application to be forwarded to the Agricultural Land Commission for consideration for the third dwelling. And I think I will leave it at that for now.
Thank you so much. Does the applicant wish to add anything? Mr. Ellison, do you wish to add anything at the moment? There might be
No, not at this time.
Okay, there might be questions from the committee. I turn to Director Nicholson first. Go ahead, Director Nicholson.
Thank you. I am generally supportive of this, but only as long as we minimize taking ALR land out of farm production. So I am wondering how we can make sure that the buildings are clustered. I'm not really keen on the proposed location of the new residence in a field.
Ms. Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So our zoning bylaw doesn't actually have any regulations regarding, I believe what the ALC calls a home plate, where all the buildings are clustered. However, through the DP process, which is required for any additional residents on the property, we would be communicating with the applicant that we require or request that any new dwelling be put in closer proximity to the existing buildings. And I do also know that when the Agricultural Land Commission representatives visit a subject property for this process, that they discuss where they also would recommend any additional residences. So that would be in their minutes if they were to approve this application.
A follow-up, Director Nicholson?
So I am wondering then, would it be of value to send this to the Area E APC so that they could provide comment on that? Or when would the most appropriate time for that happen?
That's right.
Through to the chair. So that would be at the time of development permit. So at this point, this is a request to forward the request for a third dwelling to the ALC. Should it be approved, the applicant does need to apply for development permit, and at that time, you could request that the APC review the application.
And we would have some input into its location at that time.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Wilson, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I support this particular recommendation to go to the ALC. One of the things that we know is missing over and over again is the young people who have the need to take over from their aging parents or to be able to help their aging parents on farm and stuff like that. And that's something which we need to encourage. And I understand Director Nicholson's concerns about taking over a piece of land that might be put over to production. But having said that, with all due respect, being a father and grandfather, there is also the need for that separation between the families so that you're not living on each other's doorstep. I have no hesitation in supporting this whatsoever. And then when it comes to the development process, then we can talk about where this thing is sited. But right now, we need those young people on the land. Thank you.
Ms. Cherolf, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted the committee to be aware that you do have the option, rather than forwarding the application now to the ALC, you do have the option to refer it to the APC at this point in time. And if you did want to, if you did choose to forward it to the ALC, but had the expectation that later there would be consultation with the APC, my recommendation would be that you pass a resolution to that effect, so that staff have flagged that you would like it referred to the APC at the development permit stage, because the development permit is actually delegated to the GM.
So I see that we have an option 3. Is that the option 3 that you're speaking to? Okay. Director Nicholson, go ahead, please.
Then I'd like to move the recommendation with the addition that we add at the end, at the development permit stage, it goes to the APC.
So there is the option 3. That's different. You want the recommendation with your piece added.
So what I understand from staff is that it could go to the APC now, or it could go after it comes back from the ALC if they approve it, before the development permit, at the development permit stage. And I think what I heard from Ms. Wright was that would be a more appropriate time to do it.
Okay.
So I would like to, and I can type this into the box if that's helpful, or.
Okay. So you're moving that. Is there a seconder for that? It's been moved and seconded all the way around. Director Morrison, go ahead, please.
So thank you, and I'm hoping I could pose the question to the applicant. And first, I guess a two-part question: is there a time sensitivity to the getting to work on this, getting your approvals, and ultimately, getting to where you can live and work on the property? And the second question being is, you're getting the idea that the use of a residence on a productive piece of property isn't something that we're too keen on. So have you looked at the soil classifications and the likes, so that you can perhaps choose a site that is going to be less detrimental and have less impact on your arable and productive lands. Because I think that's what we're getting at, and I'm hoping that if you've got that in mind, that it's going to make the whole process go smoother. Because I think we're probably adding 4 to 6 weeks to your ultimate approval process. So as long as you get that, that's great, and leave it at that. Thank you.
Mr. Ellison, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I see that definitely. It would definitely take some time to get this going. I don't want to. I didn't expect to start. Start building anytime soon. But yeah, I want to pick a location that would be away from, essentially away from everyone, so I'm not on everyone's doorstep, as well as not disturbing the soil and taking away farmland that we can actually make crops off of, which my proposed initial spot was away from everything, and it was all it is just a cow pasture at this point. But I know that the access is not there at the moment.
Okay. Was there another question, Director Morrison? You had a two-part. That's sufficient?
Well, yeah, it was essentially, is there a time crunch? And apparently no. And I think he's heard the message from the committee, so that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Harrison, can you read the resolution, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution before you is that it be recommended to the board that one, application number ALR 20E04 for 4975 Mclay Road, PID 023980958 be forwarded to the Agricultural Land Commission. And number two, that application number ALR 20E04 for 4975 Mclay Road, PID 023980958 be referred to the Electoral Area E APC at the development permit stage.
Okay, seeing that we're all clear what we're voting on, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Ellison.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on now. R6.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item R6 is a report from the General Manager, Land Use Services Department regarding Cowichan Tribe's request for a letter of support.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Chair-Off.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the request before you is a request for the board's support for the addition of lands to Cowichan IR number 1. The subject lands are described in the correspondence from Cowichan Tribes and are located in Area D in the Coxsila Village area in the vicinity of Christopher Mission and Hilton Roads. So the lands are currently designated agriculture, zoned agricultural service, and in light industrial use, and they're assessed by BC Assessment as light industrial. So implications to the CBRD with the transfer of lands from the CBRD to reserve would be that we would need to amend our OCP zoning and service area maps potentially to update the CBRD's geographic information system and to update the property tax roll and corresponding budgets. So there is the potential for well, there would be an implication in terms of property taxes for the CBRD, and I did ask Ms. Wayner to be available if there were questions that arose with respect to the financial implications of this proposal. So in 2020, the CBRD portion of taxes was $21,184, and that amount of money wouldn't be derived from this particular property going forward if it were to be added to reserve. So the property is also located within a number of service areas. So the City of Duncan's water service, Eagle Heights sewer, and Eagle Heights fire. And so if the land were to be transferred, Cowichan tribes would need to enter into service arrangements to access those services if the lands were moved. So at the current time, the staff don't feel as though we have complete information on what's being proposed and what the implications will be in terms of financial impacts and what Cowichan tribes' wishes are with respect to servicing. And so the recommendation before you is that the board provide a letter of support in principle for the proposed addition to reserve of the lands, and that be subject to agreements respecting service arrangements. So that would allow us the opportunity to have further discussions with Cowichan tribes and to proceed with the necessary agreements or to report back to the committee if necessary. And again, as I noted, Ms. Weiner is here if there are any questions with respect to the financial implications of the proposal.
Okay, I do have, is there anybody who wishes to speak? I have Director Morrison, Director Smith, and Director Wilson. Did I see your hand up? No.
I was
Director
going to move the
Morrison?
recommendation, but I could wait until.
Okay, I'll wait
people have
for
spoken.
Director Smith. Seeing no other hands. Go ahead, Director Smith.
Thank you. Reading the documents, I find myself, as Ms. Chernoff has said, that there's not enough information. There's not complete information, and the full financial implications. We have changes to OCPs, which then also we're looking at development permit areas, and these are all strong parts of the CVRD and electoral areas. I think it's really important that our OCPs and development permits continue in this area. I don't feel comfortable that we have enough information that has been provided to us. I would rather not support a letter at this time and wait until we have the appropriate information that is related to this particular piece of land. There's a large financial implication for Area D, which means that taxpayers, residential taxpayers, commercial taxpayers, all the taxpayers in that area will have to shoulder the burden of this increase in taxation. And I think that's a very important part. So I would not support a recommendation for a letter from the board at this time. I think we need more material at this committee before we move forward. Thank you.
I'm not seeing, thank you. I'm not seeing any yet. Then Director Morrison, go ahead, please.
Move the recommendation. If there's a second, I'll speak to it.
It's been moved and seconded. Go ahead, Director Morrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would strongly urge my colleagues around the board to endorse this. This is ultimately going to the board. This is a serious issue of addition to a reserve that I don't imagine our neighbors at Cowichan Tribes are taking lightly. And you know, in the spirit of not only reconciliation, but being good neighbors with our other orders of government, this would be more than appropriate. And there is significant time due to the lengthy process for those agreements that need to be put in place to be arrived at. So just from a relationship perspective, I would strongly urge that that we endorse this resolution.
I'm seeing no other hands up. That's been moved and seconded. Could you read the resolution, please, Ms. Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that a letter be provided to Cowichan tribes expressing the board's support in principle for the proposed addition to reserve of the lands identified as PID 000995215 to Cowichan Tribes IR number 1, subject to agreements respecting service arrangements.
Okay, call a question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? One opposed. Thank you so much. Moving on now. The unfinished business.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is none.
I do have something that I wanted to talk about as calendar wise for our next meeting. Is this a good time to discuss that? Is there an opportunity?
Under new business, it would have had to have been added to the agenda at the time that we adopted the agenda.
Oh, darn. It was a calendar. It was a meeting. There's a conflict with the director, so I don't know if I can slot that in to
You can
change
just
dates.
send an email.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. So we turn now, I guess, to question period. So we wait 10 minutes. We can come back. So
Yes, ma'am.
everybody don't go away. Turn off your microphone and your video, and we'll see you in 10.
Yes, we have one applicant. They're waiting in the lobby, and we're just waiting for, are we live? No.
Yeah.
Just waiting for that. We are now live, Madam Chair, and I will admit the applicant. One moment.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have one applicant for public input, who is Susan Kaufman.
Welcome, Susan Kaufman. Go ahead, please.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Madam Chair.
We can't see you. Oh, there we can. Now we can see you. Go ahead.
Okay. I would like to refer to the R4 Cowichan Valley Highway subdivision application. Madam Chair, did I hear that there was an RAR report attached to this file? And if so, why was it not presented in the report and available to the directors and the public? It would seem the 10% lot frontage reduction approval should be contingent on this information.
Well, we relied on what we were supposed to be voting on and the recommendation in front of us, and that's what we voted on. You could check thank you for the question, but you could check with staff if you would like to have more information, because our professional staff could help you out.
Madam Chair, respectfully, it seemed that some of the directors had some questions about it as well.
Yep, they did. So you could check with staff on that.
Thank you. And the other item I would like to speak to is R3, the Stenqua Road. It would seem that I'm a little bit troubled when the CVRD does not recognize strata developments and their regulations and building schemes, etc., that are legally in place and attached on title to these properties. I don't believe that this particular application had gone to parks or gone to the public before. So I'm wondering how that is that when it seems to be a big setback.
What I understood from staff with the strata is that wasn't our jurisdiction. And I'm sure the strata is aware. And so we were going by what our obligations are.
Madam Chair,
another question?
It's a follow-up to this one.
Sure.
If I can. The applicant is asking for a relaxation to the setbacks, which is within your jurisdiction. So it would seem when you have 5 members of the public coming to you and saying that they have concerns, that the CVRD would take greater steps to make sure that the community is on board with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Seeing none? Is that all, Ms. Harrison? there any
yes,
other?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you. Have a
And
good
like,
evening.
thank you. A motion to adjourn. Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, everyone, and it was a very good meeting. Thank you. Bye-bye.